Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking to you about my VBAC experience slash hospital and delivery experience. So let's go ahead and hop into it. My doctor initially, when I found out I was pregnant, I was in Oklahoma. And my doctor at the time was a doctor in Oklahoma, and it was a guy doctor, a guy OBGYN. And I tend to normally stick with female OBGYNs just because I feel a lot more comfortable with them. And for some reason, I just decided up in one day, oh, let me go ahead and switch to a guy OBGYN. My other two daughters, I had them in different states because they're military, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. I didn't really have to choose the doctor until this third pregnancy. So with that being said, I chose a male doctor. Long story short, I didn't like him. It wasn't any type of personal interaction there. It wasn't any type of, it just seemed more like business to me. So with that being said, I ended up relocating temporarily to Texas for a little bit. And I ended up having a doctor in Texas, which was a female OBGYN, but just really didn't click with her either. And my biggest thing was having a baby is something, it's a huge event, or it's something that's huge. So you have to like the doctor that you have. I mean, you have to be able to feel comfortable talking to them about certain things, especially during pregnancy. I mean, that's one of the most invasive times of your life. But anyways, so I didn't really care for her, and during that time I had a lot of transition going on in my life, and so I ended up relocating back to Oklahoma, where I found another doctor. And by that time I probably was about 6 months pregnant when I found my third doctor for this pregnancy. And basically, yeah, I met her, and I fell in love with her instantly. She was awesome. She was so down to earth. And so, I mean, it was just really a good feeling that I finally found a doctor that I loved. Well, one of the bad things about it was that my due date originally was June 5th. And sorry if you guys heard a lot of background noise. But my due date originally was June 5th. And I knew from the start that she probably wasn't going to be the one to deliver me, because she kind of told me like, hey, I'm scheduled to take vacation around that time. And I'm like, great. Like, I finally found a doctor, and now she's not even going to be. So I was very upset about that, honestly. And I liked her, so I just kind of made the decision to just stay with her. And then at that time, I guess I would just kind of consider what my options would be. So the only options I had was to basically either try to wait an extra week, so to wait until June 11th and be induced by her if the baby didn't come by then, or I could choose to go in right at 40 weeks and to be induced by another doctor, which would have been a male doctor. So given my experience, I wasn't comfortable with another male doctor inducing me. So I told her I would go ahead and wait. So basically what ended up happening was my husband, as I mentioned, he's military. So he was supposed to actually get called to deploy. So I won't tell the dates or anything like that, but I will just say that we ended up moving up the induction from the 11th until the 6th. I want to say it was, yeah, until the 6th, because we wanted him to just get as much time with the baby as he could. So with that being said, I knew my doctor wasn't going to be able to deliver me, and at that point I kind of had accepted it. Like, I would rather my husband get as much time with our baby girl as possible than, you know, just to wait an extra week, because at that point I would have been 41 weeks. So I made the decision to go ahead and to be induced. And so yeah, I mean, that's where everything pretty much started. So my due date came on the 5th. My induction was scheduled for the 6th. It was on a Wednesday. My due date was on a Tuesday, the 5th. My due date came and went. I had been having like Braxton Hicks contractions and things of that sort, and they were starting to get intense. But like I said, I just wanted him to spend as much time with her. So I would have loved to have gone into labor naturally, but I mean, life happens, you know, you can't always control it. But anyways, so I made the decision to get induced. So I went in Wednesday morning. Okay, first of all, my parents-in-law came down Tuesday evening, and I was just so like frustrated. I felt like I wasn't, in a way I kind of felt like I wasn't ready, but in a way I kind of felt like everything was happening so fast. I think I started to get overwhelmed with a lot of it. My parents-in-law came down that Tuesday on the 5th. And then that Wednesday, me and my husband were scheduled to be at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. First of all, I'm not a morning person at all. So it was just very hard for me to wake up. I went to bed really late because I was washing, trying to get things ready for the girls, for Jayla and Kyla, and I just wasn't, I don't know, like I just wasn't, I knew I had a baby coming soon, but I just, for some reason, was just, I just felt like I wasn't ready. Even though I still felt like I wasn't. So, I ended up going to bed at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, which is extremely late. And then I we woke up probably about 4:45, and we were supposed to be at the hospital at 5. Well, no, I take that back. We woke up at about maybe 4:15. We were supposed to be at the hospital at 5:30, and I remember thinking like the hospital's 30 minutes away, and I don't know, it just seemed like a long drive, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it by 5:30. So I had to eat breakfast, get everything ready, and get out the house by 5:30, before 5:30, so we could be there at 5:30. And I didn't feel like I was gonna make it at all. So to start the morning off rough, we ended up rushing out of the house because I had to eat, because I wasn't sure when they would let me eat. And I remember with my last 2 deliveries, I was starving. So I was like, I have to make it a point to eat. So we left a little later than I wanted to because I had to eat. And we ended up getting there like 10 minutes late. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, these people are not going to induce me today because I'm going to be late. So I was just praying like, God, please just let them not cancel my induction, because I would have been very upset. So we ended up getting there. My husband dropped me off at the front, so I ran up, checked in. The very ironic thing and the very funny thing was that I checked in, and there was another young lady with my same first and last name, and she was actually scheduled to have a C-section. So when I checked in, it was a nurse standing right there, and she was ready to take the chart and take me back. And then the woman that was checking me in, the administrative person, she was like, oh wait, you're not getting a C-section, you're having a Vbac. And I was like, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, a Vbac is a vaginal birth after cesarean. And with my first daughter, Jayla, my oldest, she's 7, I had to have a cesarean with her. I went in to the emergency room at about 38 weeks with her, and I was having Braxton Hicks. I did not know what they were, and so they ended up monitoring her and said that her heart rate wasn't where they wanted it to be. So they decided to make the choice to take her. So she came a couple weeks early, but they took her through C-section because I just was not dilating. That's just generally what it was. I wasn't dilating at all. They had me on Pitocin for maybe about 7-8 hours, and I was not doing anything. So they took her through C-section, and then after I had her, they did have to put her like on oxygen and things of that sort. So it was just kind of like, the whole thing was crazy. It just happened so fast. But with my second daughter, Kyla, the 2-year-old, I actually did have a scheduled VBAC with her, and I had a successful VBAC with her. And then with our third daughter, Leilani. Okay, so what I was saying was, with my second daughter, Kyla, and the third baby, Leilani, they inserted a balloon catheter in me, which basically is a catheter they put inside you, and it's basically put in, I believe, next to your cervix. They blow the balloon up, they fill it with fluid, and the balloon doesn't actually pop. It just basically sits next to your cervix, and it makes your cervix open up and start dilating. So they did that, and then they once they're able to pull the balloon out, then that's how they know you're dilated to like a 3.5. So they started me with that. They put the balloon catheter in. After a few hours, they were able to pull it out. So I was dilated to like a 3.5. And then from that point, they started me on Pitocin. Started me on a low dose. I want to say it was at a 2 or a 4. So I started having contractions regularly, and things started to move along. Then we kind of had like some misunderstandings. Some of my lab results, they, not from the actual hospital, but some of my lab results, like when I was in office, I guess they had conflicting results or something crazy was happening. So they came in, the nurse came in and she completely stopped the Pitocin, took me off the Pitocin, and she's like, okay, so we have to stop because we have to figure out what's going on with your labs and da 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 da. So I was just like, okay, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Because at this point, I'm dilated to 3.5, and I'm like, what? Like, you guys don't check this stuff or get it right before you start an induction. So it was just really like upsetting. So I was getting annoyed because it wasn't my doctor that was going to deliver me. It was actually a male doctor that was going to deliver me because I had to move my induction up. So my doctor wasn't there. I felt like I was just in the hands of whoever. The nursing staff was really good. They were really friendly, but I was still kind of like, it just kind of felt outside my norm. So I really wasn't that comfortable with it. But I kept praying, and I knew, that God wouldn't let me just end up in anybody's hands, and he would have my back. So I just kind of kept that at the forefront of my mind. Like, God's here. He's got you. So, like with that being said, everything ended up just being a misunderstanding. With the lab results, like they got mixed up or some crazy stuff happened. So everything was normal, thank God. And so they started me back on the Pitocin, and then I don't think the nurse was doing exactly what the doctor told her to do. I think the doctor told her to do like it was a time frame that he wanted to stay within, being as though I was a VBAC, and I don't think the nurse was listening. And I think that kind of was making the doctor frustrated, but I don't know. But anyways, so I got to 3.5, and the doctor came in and checked me, and I just remember like thinking, if I have any more kids, which I'm just like, I will never, for one, get a male doctor, and for two, I will find a doctor that will for sure be there to deliver me. Because, you guys, this man, he was a big man. Like, he was very tall, and he was very stocky, and his hands were huge. And when I seen him initially, because it was my very first time seeing this doctor, excuse me. So when I saw him initially, I knew that my doctor had already spoken to him about like my situation and everything like that, and he had agreed to take over like basically my VBAC and my care. But I had never met this man before. I just had only heard about him. So I saw him, and I was just like, oh my God. Guys, when he checked me, I was literally running off the bed. So I was going as far up the bed as I could. Like, it hurt so freaking bad. Like, it hurt really bad. And I was just like, what is this? Like, I had always been told like my cervix is high up, but God, like, it's like he couldn't find it at all. So long story short, he saw how much pain I was in. Like, I was tensing up, I was grabbing the bed, and I knew it wasn't just me because he freaked my baby out. Like, Leilani started going crazy. Like, her heart rate dropped. I mean, it was scary. It was just like, what the heck is going on? And so, like, they had to put me on oxygen. They had to turn me on my side, and then they had me get up, like, on my hands and knees just to get her heart rate back up. And I'm just like, what the heck was that? So I was honestly traumatized at this point. And I just remember thinking, like, God, I don't want this man to deliver my baby, because like that was creepy for one, but for two, it was scary. And the simple fact that like you saw how much pain I was in when you were trying to check me, it's just like, and you kept going. And then he comes out and he was like, well, you tell me when to stop. And I'm like, stop. So it was just very like I said, traumatizing. So he left the room, and then he was like he didn't really want to check me again or come back in there until I had an epidural, because I had already knew that I wanted an epidural. And I kind of agree with that, because I was like, I don't really want him touching me, because he, like, it was just too much. So I sat there, and the next thing I know is like another doctor, maybe about a couple hours later, another male doctor comes in, and I think he was the so that doctor that checked me, he went and did like clinic and things of that sort. So he had another doctor that was there making rounds come in and check on me, and he had him check me, which he was a lot smaller, and he was definitely a lot more gentler than the other guy was, or a lot more gentle than that doctor was. So he checked me, and he was just like, yeah, you're at about a 3.5, 4. So I was like, okay, great. So long story short, I sat there for hours and hours and hours. They kept turning my Pitocin up, kept having contractions, kept having contractions. Leilani's heart rate plummeted again, so they had to come back in there, and they had to have me get on my hands and knees. And it was just very, like, I started getting concerned, because I was just like, I don't understand, why she wasn't tolerating the labor. And so it just, I just kept praying, like, God, I really don't want to have another C-section, because the recovery time is longer. You can't drive. You can't eat what you really want to eat. At least from my experience, I couldn't. And I don't know. It was just very hard to get over, like, my recovery with my daughter. And I'm going to make another video for you guys, and I'm going to tell you, like, why that recovery was so hard. And then it was, like, some other medical conditions that I had found being pregnant with her. So, but that's going to be a separate video. But, yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know. So, long story short, I sat in labor with Leilani. I went in at 5:30 in the morning on Wednesday, June 6th. They actually started my labor probably at about, I want to say, I recorded everything, so if the times are wrong, I'm sorry, guys. But just off the top of my head, from what I can remember, they started my labor probably about 7:38. So once everything got started, they stopped it because of the issue with the labs and things like that. So they stopped it, and then they started it back. So it's not like I was in labor that whole time, because it was like an hour and a half time frame that I wasn't doing anything. I mean, I was contracting on my own at that point, but it wasn't, I wasn't in active labor, I guess is what you can say. So I ended up being in labor with her, I want to say maybe about, I had her on June 7th at 2:41 in the morning. So I was in labor with her for pretty decent time. And I don't know, I just remember praying the whole time through it, like, God, I don't want another C-section. Because it was a few times, like, when her oxygen would drop, I would think, oh my God, they're going to make me have a C-section because she's not tolerating the labor. But my body I stayed at about a 4 hours, like, and I was kind of upset, because I was like, this is my third child, but my second child that I'm having a vaginal birth with. So I would think that my body would just be like, oh, let's open up and let the child come out. But hey, so after I was about a 4 hours, I just remember, like, I would sleep half the time. But I remember, like, my leg, okay, so I had the epidural, and the doctor came back in, and he checked me again, and it's crazy, because he was so rough, like, even though I was numb, I could still kind of feel him, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. But anyways, so he checked me again, and I was at about a 5. Sat at a 5 for hours. Then it got really creepy, because at about 2-ish in the morning, the nurse came in and checked me, and I was, like, the baby's oxygen had dropped really low, like, her heart rate had dropped really low. They made me get up on all fours again, and the nurse checked me, like, she checked me from behind, and I was up on all fours, and she was like, oh my God, do not push, your baby is right there. So I went literally from a 5 to a 10 in the matter of maybe about a couple hours. Like, my body just, like, jumped. Like, I went from a 5 to a 10. So I guess that kind of, the thing I was just saying about how your body recognizes what's going on, I guess it just kind of snapped into it at the last minute. I don't know. So it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I jumped from a 5 to a 10. And the girl was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna call the doctor. And so I had to stay up on my hands and knees to keep her heart rate, steady, so that I could push her out. So our heart rate eventually ended up, like, regulating out, like, it became regular. And So it everything was okay. So they turned me over, and mind you, I had an epidural, so I couldn't feel my legs at all. So I felt like dead weight. I mean, it was horrible. So they turned me over, and I just remember like them putting my legs up, and then my husband was standing down there. My mom was like kind of back behind me. She actually was recording, me pushing Leilani out, and I just remember pushing. I think I pushed maybe 2 or 3 times, and I heard the doctor ask my husband, "Do you want to deliver her?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, what?" And so he put the gloves on, and my husband actually got to pull her out of me. I was like, that is so awesome. So even though it started off really bad with this doctor, because it was horrible, I do believe that, God definitely made the situation a lot better, because I asked him to. Like, I asked him, like, God, don't let this man deliver me if he does not have my best interest at heart. And I just think that everything worked out the way that God wanted it to. And so my husband was able to deliver our third daughter, Leilani, and I mean, it was awesome. Like, he put her on me, and I was just in love instantly with her. It's definitely true. No matter how many you have, it's just, I mean, you just love each and every one of them. And I just remember looking at her, and I just remember thinking, like, she is so beautiful. So yeah, so I had another successful VBAC. So those of you that may be thinking about having a VBAC, or just make sure you find the right doctor. You want to find somebody that's going to be patient with you, because sometimes, especially if it's your first, not your first, your second baby, and it's going to be your first VBAC. You definitely want to find somebody that has the patience, that's not going to rush you, and want your labor to go 6 hours. And I'm just throwing a number out there, but you want to find somebody that's going to be patient. They're going to try to help you as much as possible, because you don't want somebody that is just going to try to rush you on their timetable, and then if you don't dilate to 8 by 6 hours into labor, then they're calling a C-section. You want to find somebody that you like, that you genuinely feel comfortable with, and most importantly, somebody that will actually do a VBAC. Do your research on doctors, because that matters as well. But I have had 2 successful VBACs, and I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. We stayed in the hospital for a day. She was born on the 7th. We checked out on the 8th. And yeah, and so everything was normal. She passed her hearing test, and she had her first bath there. And I'm doing very well. I'm healing up very well. Leilani just turned 2 weeks on Thursday, this past Thursday. And so today is actually Monday. So she turned 2 weeks on Thursday. So yeah, so I want to let you guys see her really fast. It's just going to be a quick glimpse of her. I promise you guys, I am going to do a meet my kids video. It's just so chaotic right now. We're actually moving again, but I should be in Texas for a while. But we're actually moving. Well, we just finished moving, so everything is kind of everywhere. And then having a new baby, and then I'm breastfeeding her on top of that. So you can only imagine, it's been a little crazy. But I promise that I'm going to do that meet my family video pretty soon. You guys will probably meet my husband a little later, because he comes and goes so much with his career and everything of that sort. So you guys will definitely meet the girls, though, pretty soon. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in my future videos, and feel free to comment and subscribe, and then I will see you guys later. This is Leilani. She was 6 pounds, 8 ounces.